continue now at the top of Daf Mem Beis Amud Beis in Maseches Brachos. This is Berachos Daf 42b. We continue in the middle of a Mishnah. The Mishnah is discussing the various minhagim and the hanhagos of how meals were conducted. So the Mishnah says, Ba'alahem yayin besoch hamazon. Let's say wine comes in the middle of the meal. Kol echad v'yechad mevarech le'atzmo. Each person should make the bracha on his own. Achar hamazon, but after the meal, echad mevarech lekulam. One person should make the bracha for everybody. Rashi here just says, the Gemara will explain the reason for this. Then the Mishnah continues, V'hu omer al hamugmar, and he says the bracha over the mugmar. And Rashi explains, V'hu omer al hamugmar, oso shavirech al hayayin, the person who's making the bracha on behalf of everybody on the wine, hu mevarech al hamugmar, he makes a bracha on the mugmar. We'll see the mugmar is incense, as Rashi says, Shahayu regilim lahavi lefneim achar achila avkas rochlin al ha'esh b'machtos l'reach tov. After a meal, they would bring this incense, and it was burning, and it would be for a good smell. And the bracha on it would be borei atzei besamim. So the Mishnah is saying the same person who makes the bracha on the wine after the meal should make the bracha on the mugmar. And this was so even though they only brought the mugmar after the actual meal. And Rashi explains here, this was after benching already. It's nothing to do with the needs of the meal. Nevertheless, the person who makes the bracha on the wine, he begins these later brachas, he should finish and he should say the bracha on the mugmar. Gemara now has an important qualification. Amar Rava bar bar Chana Rabbi Yochanan. Rava bar bar Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Lo shanu ela v'shabosas v'yomim tovim. The halacha that we said in the Mishnah, that if you have wine before the meal, it patters the bracha on the wine after the meal. That is only true on Shabbos and Yontiv. Ho el v'adam koveya su'udaso al hayayin. This is true because on those days a person is koveya su'uda over wine. Avol b'shar yemos hashana, but in other days of the year, mevarich al kol kos v'kos, person should make the bracha on each and every cup individually, and the idea is that every single time a person decides to drink, it's like a new decision. It's not all included in the first cup. Itmar Nami was taught as well. Rabbi bar Mori, Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Rabbi bar Mori says in the name of Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Lo shanu ela b'shabbosas v'yomim tovim. This is only true on Shabbos and Yontiv. Uveshah sha'adam yotzei mibeis hamerchatz. Also when a person leaves the wash house. Also uveshas hakazas dam. Also after a person lets blood. Hoel v'adam kovea sudaso alayayin. In those instances, the kvius of the meal is made over wine. Avol b'shar yemos hashana. But other days of the year, mevarich al kol kos v'kos. The person makes a bracha on each and every cup. Rabbi bar Mori ikla levei Rava. So Rabbi bar Mori went to the house of Rava and b'chol on a weekday. Chazia debarach lefnei hamazon, and he saw that he was making a bracha before the meal. V'hader barach lachar hamazon, he made another bracha after the meal. So Amar Lei said to him, Yasha, that's very good. V'chein Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. That's actually what Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi says, as we quoted above, that it's only on Shabbos and Yontiv that it patters from a bracha. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef ikla levei Abaya b'Yontiv. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef went to the house of Abaya on Yontiv. Chazia debarach hakol kasa v'kas. He saw that he's making a bracha on every single cup. Amarle, he said to him, Lo savar la mar lahad Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. Don't you hold of what Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, that on Shabbos and Yontiv is just one bracha. The one before the meal patters the one after the meal. Amarle, he said, Nimlach, no, I am coming to a new decision. It's not normal for me to be koveya su'uda, even on a Yontiv, so therefore I make a bracha on each independent drink of wine. So the Gemara now continues with a question. Iboilu, they asked the following question. Ba'alahem yayin besoch hamazon. If wine comes in the middle of the meal, does that patter the wine after the meal? The Mishnah only discussed having wine come before the meal. What about wine in the middle of the meal, pattering wine after the meal? If you're going to say that when you make a bracha on the wine before the meal, it patters the wine after the meal. Why? Because those are both for drinking purposes. But in a situation where there's wine in the middle of the meal, that's not really lishtos. It's not purely for drinking, but it's lishros, means it's to help the food go down, to accompany the food. Rashi says lishros achilo shebemeyav. It soaks up the food in a person's stomach. So maybe there we would say no, it's not true. They're fundamentally different kinds of wine, and the wine in the middle of the meal, that bracha can't patter the one after. Odil maloshna, maybe it makes no difference. So there's a lot of machlokas amoraim here. Rav Amar Poter, for Rav Kahana Amar Eino Poter, Rav Nachman Amar Poter, Rav Sheshes Amar Eino Poter, Rav Huna, Rav Yehuda, V'chol Talmidei Derav Amri Eino Poter. So various opinions. Some say that it does patter the wine after the meal, and some say it does not patter the wine after the meal. So the Gemara now says, Eisvei Rav Rav Nachman. Rav asked Rav Nachman, It says if wine comes in the middle of the meal, this is from our Mishnah. It said each person makes the bracha on his own. If the wine comes after the meal, so one person makes the bracha on behalf of everybody. So the implication, if you take the Mishnah literally, is that there was wine in the middle of the meal and there was wine at the end of the meal, and you're still making a bracha. So Amar Le, he said to him, no, here's how you could read the Mishnah. If there was no wine in the middle of the meal, rather it came after the meal, then one person can make the bracha on behalf of everybody. It's no proof from the Mishnah one way or the other regarding if wine comes in the middle of the meal, if that paters the wine after the meal. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah, Berach ala pas poter sa parperes. A person makes a bracha on the bread, it paters the brachos on these kind of appetizers, ala parperes lo poter sa pas. He makes a bracha on these appetizers, it does not pater the bracha on the bread. Beis Shammai omrim af lo maisa kedera. Beis Shammai said even not maisa kedera, which again was like these kind of cooked grain items. So the question here is that Beis Shammai is very vague. What exactly does Beis Shammai say? So the Gemara says, Ibailu, they ask as follows: Beis Shammai aresha pligi, o dilma aseifa pligi. Is Beis Shammai arguing on the first part, on the first section of the statement, or the second section? And as follows: Dekamar Tanakama berach ala pas poter sa parperes v'kol shekin masa kedera. So it could read it like this: the Tanakama said that bread paters everything. They meant it paters parperes and masa kedera. V'yasi Beis Shammai l'meimar lo meiboy parperes de lo patra lehu pas ela afila masa kedera nami lo patra. Then Beis Shammai would be coming along and saying, no, it paters the bread, paters none of those things. It doesn't pater the parperes, and it doesn't pater the ma'aser kedera. So according to that, Beis Shammai would be saying, af lo ma'aser kedera, bread does not pater both parperes and ma'aser kedera. O dilma, or maybe you could read it as follows: aseifa pligi, they're arguing on the end. The kazani berach ala parperes lo pater sapas. So there it said that if you make a bracha on these on this parperes, this appetizer, it does not pater your bracha on bread. So pas hu de lo pater aval ma'aser kedera pater. So then you could read it that parperes does not pater the brachos on bread, but maybe it does pater the brachos on ma'aser kedera. V'azu Beis Shammai l'meimer v'afilu ma'aser kedera nami lo pater. And then Beis Shammai is saying, no, parperes not only does it not pater the bread, it also doesn't pater ma'aser kedera, teku, and the Gemara leaves this as a question, exactly what Beis Shammai is saying. The Gemara now quotes the Mishnah, which said, Hayu yoshvin kol echad v'yechad v'chulu. It said that if they're sitting together, each person should make the bracha on his own, but if they're reclining, then you can have one person making this hamotzi and leading the meal on behalf of everybody. So the Gemara says, Hesabu in lo hesabu lo. Sounds like from the Mishnah, the main requirement is that they should be reclining. And if they're reclining, then they're all considered one unit, one person makes the bracha. And if they're not reclining, then they're independent. So Uraminu, we have a contradiction from a Braisa Asara Shayu Holchim Baderech. You have 10 people, they're walking on the road. Afal Pisha Kulam Ochlam Mikikar Echad, even though they're all eating from one piece of bread. Kol Echad V'Yachad Mevarach Liatzma, they each make an independent bracha, their own bracha. Yashvu Lechad, but if they sit down to eat, Afal Pisha Kol Echad V'Yachad Ochlam Mikikar Echad, even though they're all eating from one, even though they're all eating from even though they're all eating from each an independent piece of bread, echad mevarech lekulam. One person makes the bracha for everybody. So here it sounds like katani yashvu alfa bishaloi sabu. It sounds like if they were sitting down, even though they were not reclining. So which one is it? Do you need to be reclining in order to have one bracha for everybody, or is it sufficient if they are sitting? Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, "Can go into Amri Nezel v'Nechol Lachman beduch plon." Now it's different. If they're sitting and they make a statement, let us eat bread in a particular place, so they kind of designate this as a unified meal, that's when we say that sitting is sufficient. Kinach nafshe de Rav, when Rav died, Azdu Talmidav Basrei. So his Talmidim went after him. Kihadrin, when they were returning, Amri, they said, Nezel v'nechol lachma nahar dank. Let us go and eat bread on this river, the river Dank. So Basar de Karchi, Yasvi v'kamibaylu, after they were breaking bread, they were asking, Hesabu dafka, Tanan, is it only reclining? Aval yeshvu lo, but if they sit down, no. Dilma, or no, maybe not. Kevan damri nezel v'nechol rifta b'duchta palnisa, since we said we're going to eat in a particular place, ki hesabu dami, that is as if we are reclining. So they had this very question that our Gemara was discussing. So lo hava b'yadayu, they could not come up with an answer. Kam Ravada Barava got up, and the Gemara will continue with this story on Daf Mem Gimel Amar Aleph, we will see in the next video.